Namaste and welcome to another edition of the Bharatvaarta Weekly. I'm Roshan Cariappa and I have with me Nirav Kanodra to run you through the news and events of the week that was. On Thursday, the central government placed restrictions on the import of laptops, tablets, and computers with immediate effect. The Ministry of Commerce said that the imports would only be allowed against a valid license for restricted imports. The move is aimed at promoting domestic manufacturing and to boost the centre's recently renewed production linked incentive or PLI scheme for IT hardware. Coincidentally, Jio also announced the launch of their ultra cheap laptops called JioBook, which is priced at about 16,500 and it's just launched on August 1st. Well, there's a lot of chatter on Twitter on whether this is a coincidence or whether this was, strategically timed and so on and so forth. And, if this is really augurs well with our whole digital India push and so on, right? But I feel like if you look at what's happened in smartphones, if you look at what's happened in electronic appliances and so on and so forth, I think this is a move on a similar vein, right? I mean, in the sense that, hey, there's about $20 billion of imports on these laptops and other equipment. We should definitely be able to set up an ecosystem for this in the country, right? And that's not going to happen if you're going to have free and unrestricted imports, obviously, right? Now, people have talked about a return to license Raj and all of that stuff. Well, I feel like the 90s were a different time. Obviously, we were a closed economy. 90s we liberalized. We got in plenty of these foreign companies with their goods and whatnot and so on and so forth. And all of us benefited a great deal from that, right? But at this point, I think we should stop looking at ourselves as a market for these goods and think about how we can manufacture some of these and build IP ourselves, right? If not IP, I mean create jobs and capabilities at least. And that is really what the government has done in the past as well. Now, if you look at Tesla, for instance, classic example, if you look at 3 years back, Elon has been, saying not so good things about the government on, why the import tax is so high for these cars and so on, asking for concessions. The government did not budge, and then now you have a situation where Tesla is considering setting up a manufacturing base in India, right? And this is going to happen because of our size, because of the demographics of the country, and because of the geopolitics, right? I mean, and we have to make some of these bold moves to capture some of the value that can come to India, right? And so, I mean, on that front, I really feel that this is the right move. So, what do you think, Nirav?
Yeah, so see, one thing is also timing. See, if you want to set up an assembly factory, you need to have like about a year or two to be able to build that. I think a lot of the PLI schemes, a lot of the electronics has gone on to like assembly of phones. That's a step one. I think laptops, etc. They should have been signaled out with like a cascading duties probably. So you say that okay, right now the import duty is such, maybe increases over a period of time. So everything India is not going to manufacture. So I think a
Yes.
ban is like a bit too
No, I don't
much.
think they're banned.
Maybe you could have had
I don't
duties,
think they're banned, right? I think that's
and now they've rolled it back. So now that's why they've rolled it back for 3 months. Second thing is what India got this wrong or a little bit negatively is the policy uncertainty that anybody has. If some company has to hire, employ a lot of people, to be fair, right now these are not being assembled in India. So maybe if somebody just sets up, even if screwdriver technology, maybe that generates a lot of employment. But I think duties and that also like maybe lower duties right now, but like cascading up over a time frame would give people enough time to adjust and like do something accordingly. So I think this is a hastily taken decision, then rolled back. This is one of like I would say like criticisms of this is across parties of
it's
this
a
government I would have,
it's a continuing
but this is
malaise. Yeah,
across.
it's a
Yes,
continuing.
it's a continuing
Yeah.
malaise. It's across parties. We've had issues like retrospective taxation. So what India is like, it behaves. See, while India is growing up, and we say, oh, it's the fifth biggest economy, etc., etc. But then sometimes it just does behave like a small country with policy uncertainty, right? On these whims and fancies. So yes, I think this is something India has used industrial policy in the past with mixed success. We've done some good things where we've built a domestic auto industry, cars and motorcycles. That is good. We had a domestic pharma industry. That is good, and a lot of things we've not done that well as well. Right? The list is too long, so I just rather focus on the successes. Hopefully, what they get the policy mix correct, and we can produce, at least assemble a lot of laptops. Still, a lot of components come from all over the world, predominantly East Asia. So Taiwan, South Korea, and China, Japan. Hopefully, I think we get the assembly first, then you keep going backwards to like manufacturing some components and more components and have like backward integration kind of a thing. But I would say like a ban or like a very high duty suddenly is a little bit difficult. See, these are the things which lead to all those kind of smuggling, and then people going making small trips to Dubai, just buying a lot of electronics and coming back, and those kind of things. What used to happen earlier with gold, etc. What you want is a little more transparency and a little more ease of doing business. Also, this will probably hurt any sort of free trade agreements that we do want to sign. Hopefully, better sense prevails. But this is, I think, across lot as like a lot of times people joke that political parties in power keep changing, but the bureaucrats who kind of give all these ideas remain the same. No real criticism of anyone specific, but I say that we could do with a little bit less of these rule uncertainties.
No, I think the way they communicate some of these policies could definitely be better, right? I mean, we discussed this even during the whole tax on gaming, for instance, that you allowed the industry to function a certain way and then you suddenly clamp down and then you go back and so on and so forth. So, for sure, I think there needs to be better communication, and someone in the government has to think about, how can an industry prep for this, right? I mean, you can't bring up these measures overnight and then roll it back on based on reaction and so on, for sure. But I do believe that this is something that could be positive for us, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah. So as I said, if I focus on the wins, we've got a domestic two-wheeler and car manufacturing industry. We've got a great pharma industry. Vaccines, we saw that we could produce it domestically all by ourselves. I would say like consumer electronics are a little more complicated. So we also have some sort of duties on other consumer electronics like washing machines and televisions and like all. So that is why Samsung, LG, etc. They do have like big assembly plants in India. But this is like you have certain components being made only in few countries in the whole world. So we can't make everything domestic. And I think like a slow cascading duties or something would have been better. And I agree with the end goal. That the end goal is yes, we want to generate more manufacturing employment. So that's absolutely there. I would rather use a carrot of like making the PLI schemes attractive rather than a stick.
no, but they
That's
have
but
that
that's
as well, right? They've actually set out budget for the PLI on this specifically as well. And everything happens gradually. I mean, iPhones, for instance, 7% of iPhones are manufactured in India at this point of time. That wasn't, I mean, it was due to PLI and it was due to all of these policies, right? So.